Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with not a battle to the death for I know you see two knives here. You think that's what it's going to be. Nope, this is a new series. I'm calling it Cheap versus Not So Much. And the two that I've chosen for this first one, and I'll explain why in a moment, is the Kershaw Bareknuckle, pretty much top of the Kershaw production line. They have some sprints that are a bit more expensive at about $60 versus the Zero Tolerance 0562 tie, which goes for $280, very much near the top of the zero tolerance range. This one has a bit of sibling rivalry too, because they're both of these brands are owned by Kai USA. So how does this work, these new things? So what I'm going to do in all these videos is I'm going to take two knives that are fairly similar in purpose of use, but vastly different in price. So yeah, 60 versus 280. This is actually probably the most expensive knife I'm going to use in these. But it's going up against the most expensive one I'm going to use in these that I have planned right now anyway. I've got 4 or 5 of them planned out. And then we're just going to do basically same scoring we do on the Battles to the Death, except for I'm going to change it a little bit, which I'll explain right now. So the 7 categories we score everything on and all the Battle to the Death and all that stuff are design and aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. Here are the differences. Obviously, you'd expect the more expensive one to win a lot of those categories, and that probably will. But we're talking about whether or not you're going to be satisfied with a less expensive option. So all the categories get 1 point, except value gets 2 points. So the value one gives the cheaper knife a bit of an advantage because everything else is up above. It's going to be hard for them to get through. And I'm going to say, if there's a tie at the end, then the cheaper one wins. I've always made value the tiebreaker, but especially in this one, I think that's a win. If you have a very inexpensive knife and it winds up tying the more expensive one, I think that's a win. So I hope that's a good explanation of how this is going to work. But let's get going. And I'm going to weigh the categories a little bit, for the price and all that stuff. So let's get going and see how it is. Again, this is not about outright wins. This is just to say whether or not you'd be satisfied with the cheaper option. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to do some little explanation of the models and do some a few little specs, and then we'll get going. So first of all, we'll start out with the 0562 tie. This is a Hinderer design. This is the newest version of it. ZT's made it for quite a while. They just added this full titanium version with these very nicely beautiful milled out liners. Cut the weight down a lot. It's even lighter than the carbon fiber version. And as I said, $280, but extremely well built, just really nice. A lot of people say it's a nicer Hinderer than a Hinderer. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, but I do love this knife. If you guys watch my most carry, this is often on there. It's usually at the top. I don't think it was this past month, but it's usually at the top. Great knife from Zero Tolerance and extremely popular already. So let's do some stats here. We have an overall length of 8¼ inches, blade length of 3.5 inches, blade thickness of 0.16 inches, handle thickness of 0.51 inches, and a weight of 5.45 ounces. Now we will bring out the bare knuckle. The bare knuckle, another brand new model from Kershaw. This is the largest member of the Natrix family, meaning it has the sub frame lock. This is model 777 because it is modeled loosely on the old Zero Tolerance 0777. Just a really cool knife, and one, again, extremely popular. People love it, and it was actually out of stock for quite a while after it was released. You're getting 14C 28N steel, aluminum handles, and just a really good lightweight kind of EDC package, but also still built to do some heavier duty stuff. That's why it's up against a Hinderer. It's not a heavy duty knife by any means, but it's close. All right, for this one, stat wise, we have an overall length of 8.2 inches, blade length again 3.5 inches, blade thickness a bit thinner at 0.12 inches, handle thickness also a bit thinner, 0.45, and weight quite a bit lighter at 3.55 ounces. Now, let's get going on this. So, our first category, design and aesthetics. Now, this is one that you don't have to say for the price. I mean, a knife either looks good or it doesn't. And with these two, I don't know, I got to call it a tie. I like the look of the 0562, but it is kind of plain. I think the part of the reason why ZT went with this is a lot of people customize their ZTs and they wanted to give people a blank canvas, and they did a great job with that. I love the look of the stonewash. I like the look of the blade. You know, with the finish on the blade. This is basically a copy of Hinderer's Slicer grind. Not too much billboarding, a little bit. Nice deep carry pocket clip. I like the blacked out hardware, but it is definitely, a blank canvas to do some stuff with. The bare knuckle, I love the color they chose on the aluminum handles, this kind of slate, and you can see it's holding up pretty well. I carry this quite a bit, and it hasn't had any problems, but they did put a lot more effort into the design of it, I think, into the aestheticness of it. But I don't know. I like the shape of the 0562 better. I like everything about the look of this one better. I'm going to call it a tie on that one. I'm happy with the way both of them look, but neither of them are, shockingly awesome looking knives. Quality. This one was close. Like I said, both the same company. But this is the top of the line of the budget line, and this is, getting near the top of the line of the top of the line. I have to give a very slight win to the 0562, but not by that much. The Kershaw, I didn't have any quality control issues. I know a couple people have. This is a USA-made Kershaw, if I didn't specify that. I didn't have any issues with it. But I hadn't heard of anyone having any issues with the 0562 tie. So basically, just from anecdotal evidence, I'm going to say the 0562 tie for that one. Ergonomics. Is that the next one? Yes. No, blade. I'm sorry. I skipped a category. Blade. This was a toughie. 20 CV steel. Freaking amazing. Versus 14C28N steel. You'd say slam dunk. It's the 20 CV steel blade all day long. Nah, I don't know. This is, I really like 14C28N, and Kershaw does a great job with it. Is it as good as 20 CV? No, of course not. But this is a pretty thick, heavy-duty blade. A pretty thick blade stock. What was it? 0.16 inches. That's pretty thick. Thickness behind the edge, too, is like 28 thousandths. It's not terribly thin behind the edge by any means. It's a working, hardcore, workaday blade. Big, thick, robust tip and stuff on it. Where this, much on the bare knuckle, much thinner blade stock, much thinner behind the edge. I think it was like 21, 22 thousandths. Much better slicer for your normal EDC tasks. And 14C28N, especially when Kershaw's involved, because they did help develop the stuff, I think this is completely good to go. I don't think you'd be disappointed with it at all. So I'm going to call the blade a tie, which is really saying something for, I guess, the most important part of a knife, and you're looking at a knife that's way less expensive, and I'm calling it a tie. And I went back and forth with that one for a while, but I can't give the win to the ZT just because it's 20 CV, and that's what I'd be doing. Now, ergonomically, I have really long fingers, so I'm going to put that in as a caveat. I think if you had shorter fingers, you might be just as happy with the bare knuckle, but it is a pretty thin handle. You can see my fingers are fully touching on this other side. There's no hot spots or anything. I find it extremely comfortable. This recessed pocket clip, works well as far as that for keeping stuff, keeping your no hot spots from the pocket clip. Jimping is great. You're locked in well. Ergonomics on this are very, very good, but for my long fingers, the ergonomics on the 0562 are perfect. So yeah, I got to give the win in ergos to the ZT, but it's, like I said, it's battling against excellent to perfect. So I got to call the 0562 tie the winner here. There is more grip on the bare knuckle if you care about that, but I got to go with the 0562 tie for ergonomics. Carry. This one is probably going to be a little bit controversial, but because I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this, because I have heard some people complain about the bare knuckles pocket clip, that it's really hard to get in and out of pants and stuff like that. Never had a problem with it. It's never really been an issue. It just hasn't been an issue for me. I guess it's just the jeans that I wear. I just wear regular standard, Levi's 501s and stuff, and it slides in and out of those completely fine. It's lighter. It's thinner in the pocket. It's a lot lighter. It's a lot thinner in the pocket. I find the pocket clip works just fine. This is a very nice pocket clip on the ZT, though, I do have to say. It is definitely a nicer pocket clip than this, but this one works fine. I got to go, for carry-wise, I got to go with the bare knuckle. Deployment. This is one that you would think, because I rave so much about how much I love the action on the 0562 tie, you'd think it was a runaway. It isn't. It still wins. Don't get me wrong. I didn't mean to scare anybody. It still wins. I'm still going to say the action on it's a little bit better than the Kershaw, but not by much. And it's mostly in the noise. I put both of these. I did a video about some of my favorite sounding knives. I got tagged in the thing. Both of them made it. This one just sounds amazing. But you know what? This bare knuckle's pretty dang good. I still like the sound it makes too. And the action on it is... it may be smoother than the ZT, which is crazy. Both running on ball bearings. This may even be smoother. It may be a bit more drop shutty than the 0562 tires, which is insane. But it doesn't snap out quite as well. And people do complain that if you have pressure on the lock bar, it doesn't open. I've never had that problem. Or as I said, don't do that. The way my fingers land, I'm just never on it. That's just the natural way I want to hold it, and I'm not on the lock bar. So, but you know, for those couple caveats, I'm gonna give the win to the 0562 tie, but not by as much as you'd think, guys. Like it's really freaking close. Value. So what are you getting? And again, this is the biggest category. You get 2 points for this. It all comes down to this. Values. You're getting both USA made. Both from Kai, which is a good company to deal with. I've never had any problems with them as far as warranty and stuff goes. I think they're both pretty well built. Both, USA, as I said, both good steels. But, you know, $60 versus $280. Yeah, I gotta go with the Kershaw and the value, which is the way you'd expect in these things. And that's the way it's probably going to go in a lot of these. Because I'm not going to put something complete junk up against something expensive. I'm going to try and pick two good knives. So how did the scoring go? Again, I think it's the way a lot of these are going to go. We did have a couple of ties. So it wound up being 3-1 for the ZT until we got to the value. And then the Kershaw clawed back 2 points at the last minute to make it 3-3, which, as I said up front, I think you got to call that a win for the Kershaw. That's why I'm not saying this is a better knife than the ZT. It isn't. But do I think you'd be, say, 80% as satisfied for, I can't do math, what, 25% of the cost? Right? No, it's a little less than that. I don't know. A little more than that. I can't do math. For, like, basically a quarter of, it's not more than that. It's not a quarter. Whatever. 30-some percent of the cost. Yeah, I do. I do think that I do think you would be 80% as satisfied for a much smaller portion of the price. There, let's just use that so we don't have to do math. The bare knuckle is a great knife. This is a great knife. Luckily, I own them both, so I don't have to make a decision. But obviously I see a reason to own them both. But if you can only get one and you don't have a lot of money, I think you get the bare knuckle. I think you're gonna be pretty happy with it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This is going to get more refined as this goes on, and as I said, the next couple are using much more budget knives than this. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this and find it informative and educational. I've been Brian. Have a good one.